Hey there, and welcome to the Bold Badass Business Show, where we bring you badasses from all over the globe. And today, you all, I am thrilled to have in the house a seven-figure financial wizard. And I will tell you all, I got to meet Chris through his lovely wife, and we immediately hit it off. He's got so much to share with you today that will make your finances better, that will make your relationship with yourself and with those you love better, and that will just help you be an incredible business owner and not one of the ones who goes out of business after a couple of years. Did you realize that after 10 years, if you had 10 people in a room, only one would still be in business? And we don't want that for you. Let me tell you that Chris was in the top 1% of an agency of over 60,000 financial experts. He knows his stuff, and I'm thrilled that you're here. So thanks, Chris, for joining us.
Dr. Barnsley, it's awesome to be here. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, let's have some fun. And I just have to say, our title is the best. I love this title. Is your money set point your money suck point? Right? So if your finances suck, there may be a chance that your money set point is a suck point. Chris, tell us in a nutshell your story, because I've heard your story. It's quite powerful. And I've heard about how you were on the brink of divorce and all of this. Give us a little version of this story that I think will inspire so many people listening.
Yeah, well, I'm a recovered CPA, right, which is a 12 step process. First step's denial. Anyway, I had worked through the recovery process, but started my own financial services entrepreneurial business in the middle of the Great Recession, and I'm standing in front of my lovely second, current, and last wife, Marlo, and
I love that. Current and last wife.
And last one, or I'm dead, so she says. And we are having the fight of our lives. And she threw her purse at me not once, not twice, but 3 times. And the reason she threw her purse, and Hurricane Marlo's not a fun thing to experience, is we were $250,000 in credit card debt. We had a 6,000 square foot office lease that we couldn't afford. I'm paying my ex-wife $5,200 at the beginning of every month. We're a disaster. And it wasn't her fault. We're recently married. She walked into the disaster and found out after she fell in love and married me that I was a financial crap show. And she just could not believe that a financial advisor and a CPA could be such a financial mess. And so this fight's happening, and F-bombs galore, and it's the worst fight we've ever had. And I just said, well, why are we still together? Why are we even married? And she went upstairs to go figure that out for the rest of the night. And there I was, and the awakening happened. And it was just watching all the disasters of my life with my ex-wife, with my kids being little. I'm in Denver, they're in Atlanta. I can't see them because I'm too broke. I'm drinking too much. The financial stress is a mess. And I realized the common theme and the common denominator to everything was me. And I finally took 100% responsibility for the shit show that was my life.
Yeah.
And had to quit living in hopium. And you work with a lot of business owners, Dr. Barnsley, and most of them live in hopium.
Hopium is not a good place. It is addictive, and it's right beside the river Denial.
Yeah. I call it rearranging the furniture on the deck of the Titanic, right? And the damn boat's going down. It doesn't matter what you do with the furniture. And so I'm like, I want everything externally to change while I stay the same. And so right then and there, I decided to change my world. And Marla and I got back together the next day. She decided to keep me. She said, I'm keeping you. We're not getting jobs. We're going to figure our business out. We're not declaring bankruptcy. We're not getting divorced. And she was like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I'm going to figure out how this keeps creating this mess of debt and running in the red and all that. And I just told her I was not interested in changing. I was committed. And long and the short of it, we transformed our world from that decision point forward. And, went up to 7 figures and, started saving 30, 35, 40% of our income, and,
Beautiful.
just did miraculous things and continue to do really cool things. But that was the turning point.
So I love, there's so many things that I think are in your story, Chris. And one is that, 100% responsibility for the shit show. I heard you on that. 100% responsibility, because most people will blame anybody. Oh, the interest rate's too high, or oh, the weather was really bad and I had to buy a raincoat, whatever. I had to get that Gucci raincoat. People will blame anything rather than themselves. And the thing is, if we make ourselves out as a victim, there's no growth that can happen there.
Yeah. No, I did a post on victim today. It doesn't work, right? And justifications, validations, excuses of why things are the way they are, and in society today, I mean, it's a big victim society.
Yep.
And I wrote a LinkedIn article a few months ago of why are there so many smart, talented, broke people? And I empathize because I was smart, talented, broke. I mean, it wasn't that I wasn't working hard. I was busting my butt. I wasn't lazy, I was committed, so to speak. But I was literally running a marathon with a 20-pound bowling ball around my ankle, and that bowling ball was my broke mindset.
Yes. And, the broke mindset comes from so many sources. How about telling us a little bit about some of the sources of that broke mindset that people listening can examine for themselves?
Yeah, I mean, there's a great author out there, a lady named Margaret Lynch, wrote a book called Tapping into Wealth. It's unbelievable book. Whether you buy into emotional freedom technique, or I do, but even if you just got the book to read it, it's one of the best wealth books ever. And Dr. Barnsley, she was like experiencing with her coaching these people, and she's like, these entrepreneurs, as you know, she's like, my God, they're so smart, they're so talented, she's like, why are they broke?
Yeah.
And she was experiencing it, and it's just, and it's her quote in that book. She says the biggest determining factor of our financial success is the vows that we made to gain acceptance into our family at a young age. Which is so, I'll say it again because it's so powerful, because people don't even think about it, right? The biggest determination of our financial success is the vows that we made to gain acceptance into our family at a young age. Meaning, from 0 to 4 years of age, we have no capacity to accept or reject ideas. We just, people are like, oh, they're sponges, right? Well, they're a sponge for good and bad. And to get their acceptance, you have to buy their garbage, right? So, I had great parents, but they had broke mindsets, right? And I talk about it in my book. It's, rich people suck. They make money on the backs of poor people. This is the whole victim thing. My mom was like, money, you either have it or you don't. It's just some birthright, right? Whether you have it or you don't. And so we get that. And by the time we're 10, we're 70, 80% hardwired, programmed on those things. And by the time we're 18, we're 95% programmed, meaning it just keeps rolling. And then society furthers the programming by villainizing wealth, right? And right now we're in political season, right? And it's heightened there, right? And so we get all these messages, the movies we see, it's just being wealthy is displayed in a very negative light. And so
Hang on, Chris, give me a second. Hold on. I'll be right back. We have howling going on in our rescue animals right now. And I want to be able to, everybody to be able to hear you rather than the howling. Isn't this fun, you all? You never know what's going to happen on Bold Badass Business. All right. Teenagers here today, and they're having a howling session. They're singing away. We have a new adopted dog, Fezziwig, who is such the singer.
I love it.
Chris, you know, absolutely what you are saying is so powerful that we absorb, 0 to 4, even up to 7. We just absorb what we hear, what we see, what's modeled. And when our parents have that broke mindset, like my dad was, he was passed out most of the time and he couldn't keep a job, and my mother was just doing everything she could to make it, with me and my brother. And one thing I admire is that she was so resourceful, Chris. I mean, we would go out. We lived in a very nice neighborhood. We had this old house that we got that was a mess. Now it's a multi-million-dollar home in one of the best places in Raleigh, right? But then it was a mess on the inside. And I was stripping wallpaper at age 7. But we would go out on the trash pile days, Chris, and we would get stuff that somebody had thrown out, like an antique that a cat had peed on, or, maybe some of the veneer was off. We would fix it up and we would have sales and we would make hundreds of dollars. This was me, my brother, and my mother. And it taught me so much. But it also, it was so resourceful. That's what I took from it. But I could have also taken from it desperation if she had put it to me that way. Instead, it was fun.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's the meaning you applied to it.
That's the meaning she applied to it. She modeled that, like we go out and, oh my God, look at this. What can we do with this? But now, where I am in my life, I see how much she was doing just to keep us afloat, know?
It's awesome.
So Chris, it's something, I don't know, when were your parents, did they live through the Depression partly, or grandparents? My mother was born about that time, but my grandparents
partly. Yeah. They obviously grew up poor. Yeah, for sure.
And so just stuff like the Clean the Plate Club. Remember the Clean the Plate Club? Like, you don't waste any food. You put it on your plate, you're going to eat it, right? We don't throw it away. We don't waste things. Just this kind of perception can be debilitating later. It really can. It can make us overweight, for one thing. But, really. But it can also be debilitating because it's like, yeah, what if I don't want that thing on my plate? Well, I can't have anything else unless I consume it.
Yeah. I mean, our programming serves us until it doesn't.
Yep.
Right. And so one of my mentors has the longest running study of self-made millionaires and billionaires on the planet, a guy named Steve Siebold, over 1,300. He's interviewed over the last 35 years. And what he found was the large majority of them had the same thing that happened to me, that happened to you, that happened to everybody. So it's not, very few are born like a Kennedy or something where they just, they're born into that environment. And it's like osmosis, like a fish in water. You're just going to be wealthy because you're just in that. Well over 90+% of them grew up in a limited thought process, broke mindset, scarcity mindset. But at some point, and for me, it was at age 37, they called bullshit. And they did the hard work, the deep dive into, like I'm a very average golfer, but, remaking the golf swing. And my coach, that helped me do that for 4.5 years. That's why you need coaching, because we can't see our weak spots. he said, "What's more important, the golf club or the golf swing?"
Wow.
And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, you're a financial advisor. Most advisors, most people that coach, they talk about the golf club. And if your swing sucks, it doesn't matter what the golf club is." And so for most people, they're looking for the golf club, right? They're looking for the investment, the whatever it is. But if the golf swing's no good, which is your mindset and your mentality, then you will find a way to jack it up. And
You'll
and
sabotage it,
so yeah, you'll sabotage it. So, that most entrepreneurs, most business owners, and I know a lot of them, right? And I love them all, but most
right?
of them have a broke mindset. And so they're out here, rearranging the furniture on the deck of the Titanic,
Yeah.
looking for, oh, I need to do more social media. I need to do this. I got this strategy. I need this. And they think that that's it. Meanwhile, they have probably 3 to 4 stories rolling around in their brain, unconscious, that's running the whole show, and they have no idea.
I love what you're saying. It's so true, Chris. And I think I said to you before we came on, I just got off a client call a few minutes ago, and she was really down on how much she'd made in the last 2 months. There'd been a little lower than her usual. And she was a little bit down on herself. And I said, well, wait a second, let's talk about your debt. When you came into this program, you had X amount of debt. And she's like, yeah, I did. And I said, well, how much do you have now? She said, I have this much. She has paid off 90% of her debt, Chris.
It's awesome.
90 while we worked together. And I said, and this is why we need coaches, because those stories are just running. It was just running her that she wasn't doing well. And I said, wait a second. Have you noticed that your bank account is less or more? She said, well, actually, it's twice what it was last year. And I said, so maybe you didn't have exactly the amount of income you wanted the past couple of months, but your consciousness was different, because there's no explanation really, but your bank account didn't go down. Your consciousness was the factor here. And I have to say, Chris, I don't know, I don't want to sound woo-woo, but when I was making $13,000 a year, putting myself through graduate school, literally, I never went without anything. I traveled internationally. I always paid my bills. I have never in my life ever written a bad check, ever. I've never overdrafted anything. And that's on $13,000 a year. And this is what I talk about in my books. I'm like, you guys, that is got to be a consciousness piece, because I started studying prosperity principles in the 90s. Because like you, I realized, I've inherited a shit show. And if I keep going down this yellow brick road, it's actually a poop-filled road. My life is going to suck, And I vowed to change it. And I started reading and taking courses and whatnot. And one of the first books I read was Your Money or Your Life. Have you read that one?
Yep.
Amazing book.
Yeah, it's best. It has the best definition of money ever. Money is something you exchange your life energy for. It's one of the best definitions ever.
That's a book that made me realize I can leave academia. Yeah, there's nothing holding me here, because I'm probably making about $7 an hour. When I factored in all the expenses, the professional clothes, the associations, the this, the that, the commuting, the blah, 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 having an extra, apartment so I could go up and work at Wake Forest University. I'm making $7 an hour. There's no reason not to start my own business. Thank God for Joe Dominguez.
Yeah. Powerful book.
How can people really tell, Chris, that they don't have a money set point? It's a money suck point. What are the symptoms, so to speak, of this, so they can get out of denial?
Well, it's the results, right? One of my favorite quotes is, optimism and delusion sleep in the same bed together. And, Marlo finds out, because I finally confide in her how bad it is. This is before the purse throwing incident, right? And did that against my will, right? Like, it was an intuitive hit to do something that was massively uncomfortable and hand of God moment. Thank God I did it, because it was the single greatest decision I ever made financially. Probably one of the greatest decisions I ever made. Well, marrying her, but next is probably handing over the control to her of our financial affairs. And, you know, she finally gets a grasp. This is 9 months before we had our falling out, of like, what the is going on.
Yeah.
And then we had to come to Marlowe meeting, which was, you know, tons of fun. And she's, you know, and she introduces the 4-letter word of the budget to me, and, you know, all this stuff. And I was the most optimistic guy on the planet, right? I was just like, how are things going? They're awesome. Yeah, things are rocking. And she's like, hey, dumbass, look what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, let's not. No, look over here. Just look over here. Let's not look here. I got this, right? More hopium. I got this prospect that loves me, right? Business is not a place to have your emotional needs met, by the way. And there's a lot.
Wait, say that again. That is powerful.
Business is not a place to have your emotional needs met.
Whoa.
And there is a lot of broke people that have. Now this is a very successful entrepreneur, right? But this lady, she's almost like my daughter. She used to have, you know, meetings next to my office in the conference room. I called it a love fest, right? She'd have her clients come in and just, they're like, oh yeah, and I don't know how much business was happening, but there was a lot of love being passed back and forth, so to speak, right? Because they loved each other and it was great, all that. And I have had a lot of advisors in my business that they just meet with people, they get their emotional needs met, and they don't serve people and go to the bank. Like, they serve people, they forget to go to the bank.
They don't close the deal.
They don't, because their needs are being met. Anyway, so, but I was the most optimistic person on the planet. And then my coach was like, you have no relationship to results.
Whoa.
Right. And in, you know, Steve Siebold's book, mandatory read, 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World Class. I probably talk about it every week. He interviewed the world class people, right? These 1,300 people, and there's 177 concepts in there. And not that you need to, you know, apply all of them, but it is all about upgrading to a world-class mindset from a middle-class mindset, right? I'm a recovering middle-class thinker. And he asked all these people he interviewed, 1,300. He's like, okay, there's 177 concepts here. What's the most important? And it's chapter 1, objective reality. And its results. So to answer your question in a very long-winded way, how do you know you have a broke mindset? Your results suck. And so that's the sign, right? And so when I hired my coach, and he was like, well, you need to save money. And I'm like, oh yeah, I know that. And he said, what'd you say? I'm like, I know that. And we never met face to face. It's all over the phone. And if he would have been in front of me, he would have punched me. Because he said, if you say that again, I'm going to fire your ass. I'm going to keep the money.
I love it. He's like, you got to be coachable, man.
He said, and this is what he would always say, based on results, how well do you know it?
I remember you saying in a presentation I heard you give, based on your results, how is your way working for you?
Yeah.
And that is the question, you know, and that's a question that we should be asking in every single enrollment conversation we have with people. Based on, you know, every sales conversation, I prefer the word enrollment. We should be asking that based on your way, how and the results you're getting, how's your way working for you?
Yeah.
It's time to get out of denial about it.
Yeah. So how do you know you're broke? I mean, it's what's happening with your bank account. So he was like, okay, you're 37. how's your way working? You're $250,000 in debt. Your second wife has one foot out the door. You're kind of a drunk.
You've been hit in the head 3 times with her purse, and if it had been my purse, Chris, you wouldn't still be here, by the way.
Yeah.
You'd be dead.
Yeah. And then he's just like, oh, how's your way working? So that's it. But here's the thing. Once you realize that it's not working, here's where most people go, Dr. Barnsley. They go into resistance. And resistance is what is happening shouldn't be happening.
It's unfair, right?
It's unfair. It's mine was guilt, delusion, right? Delusion, right? Delusion is right. Discouragement robs more dreams than almost any emotion on the planet. And so this was my coach. I do this in workshops. It's powerful. Make a list of everything in your life that you wish was not there. Grab a piece of paper. Make a list of everything in your life that you wish was not there, that you wish was different. So I did that exercise first time. My debt, my lack of savings, my stupid office lease, my ex-wife, as far as just, what she did to me, even though I created the whole disaster. Can't see my kids, can't say. And so I made this list, and my coach goes, okay, what are you going to do about it? And I'm like, I'm going to fix it. He's like, no, you won't. That's what you've been trying to do. You won't. You can't. I'm like, what do you mean? What kind of coach are you? He's like, how long has that crap been on your list? How long's the debt been on your list? And I'm like, 20 some years. How's that working? And so what he taught me, and some people glaze over a little bit when I talk about it, but this is so powerful. I used to be like, oh, that's woo-woo. No, this is a recovering CPA, right, who was looking for the strategy to change my life. And there's no strategy. It is what you focus on expands. End of story. End of story. It is the preeminent law in all personal growth and development is the law of growth. What you focus on expands. All the crap I was focusing on in my life kept growing. And he taught me this, and I'll shut up. He said, you need to get to a place of acceptance of the stuff that's on your list. Otherwise, those things on your list will not change until your energy towards those things on that list change. And I was like, acceptance? What are you talking about? This stuff sucks. He's like, and this was powerful. He said, you don't need to love it, but you have to stop hating it.
That is so powerful. Okay. So this is perfect. I want to break this down a little bit.
Okay.
This person I was just mentioning who's brought her debt down 90%. Now there's just one credit card that she's got left. And I said, okay, I challenge you to do this. And actually, Chris, I'm going to create some kind of lead magnet to share with people on hygiene, money hygiene, because I realize I've got to break down some of the stuff I do. I definitely break it down in my books, but I got to break it down even further than I have for people. And one of the things I realized that I have always done is when I get a bill, like I just got this bill, I had a lot of travel coming up. And so it's $1,337.60 on one of my credit cards. Well, guess what? Tonight I pay it. It just came in yesterday. Within 24 hours of when it comes, I always take care of it. Now, you could say, well, how do you have enough for that? Well, I've got some big tax bills coming for some properties I own, but I'm not focusing on those. I'm like, hey, I'm going to circulate it. I'm a benefactor. I get to contribute. By the way, I never use the word pay. I get to contribute to the well-being of everybody who works at Wells Fargo, the mail carrier, the person who, chops down the wood to make these envelopes, the person who answers my call, et cetera, when I take care of it over the telephone, the person who created the software for the automated part of it, all of that, I'm contributing. I'm a benefactor. And when I go into this, I don't feel like I'm paying anything. I'm actually excited. I'm like, yay, let's take care of it. And what does that do? It circulates it. So I guarantee you there'll be more coming in really fast. The floodgates are open. But I'm not resisting. I don't have any sense of payment. I don't have any sense of sacrifice, I just have an excitement about it. And so what I said to her is, I want you to do the same tonight. And she said, well, I need some more money. And I said, well, just transfer it over. I just want you to do it. And I want you to announce it to our group on text. And I'm going to celebrate with you and I'm going to do mine. And I want you to do that the next time too. Because right now you're in fear and scarcity. You're afraid there's not going to be enough. And that's why you're hanging on to these things to the last minute. And that's why you let the credit card debt start in the first place. Where are you coming from, people? When you sit down to take care of the expenses, quote unquote, expenses you have in your business, are you excited? I'm excited to pay my coaches. I love contributing to them. It's like a tithe because they support me. I'm excited to take care of my electricity. I'm excited to take care of this and that and the other. I don't see it as like, oh God, I have to pay this. What do you think, Chris? It's one of my money hygiene tips right there.
Yeah, well, couple things. Money like speed.
Yes.
So there's like no question about that, right? So, and I'm a big fan of do it now, right? That's one of my most favorite affirmations. I heard a coach on this program, Mark Victor Hansen program, I bought in 2 years ago, and we got on this call, and Mark Victor Hansen's like, hey, I got this guy. I forgot the guy's name. He went from broke to being a billionaire in 10 years.
Nice.
And he's got 45 minutes to share what he did. And the guy got on. He's like, I don't need 45 minutes, Mark. I probably need 2 minutes. I adopted the affirmation, do it now, and I applied it. It was actually 30 seconds. And then Mark had to draw it out of him for the next 45 minutes. He just said, do it now, 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 do it now. Right. And so we don't procrastinate. We hesitate, and entrepreneurs hesitate. But your whole thing, just getting to acceptance is powerful, because what happens is if you're taking action from resistance, right, which is, once again, what is happening should not be happening, right? It's like getting a flat tire. We get a flat tire and then we're like, oh crap. Why did I get a flat tire? I shouldn't have gotten a flat tire. Why is that this? Why is that? There's this, and we go through these mental gymnastics. Meanwhile, the flat tire is sitting there going, Dr. Barnsley, I don't give a rat's ass. I'm still flat. So the quicker you can get to accepting that you have a flat tire, right, versus I shouldn't be here, is not going to get you back on the road. So once you accept that you have a flat tire, that my coach taught me, once you're the only platform in which you can create a new life is from acceptance.
Yes. And that is 12 steps too, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. And so
we have a problem. I love that you say you're a recovering CPA, because I always, in presentations, Chris, I'll say, I'm Dr. Barnsley and I'm a recovering academic. And the teachers in the room always go, they're always laughing, but the rest of the people are like, what'd she say? But, that is part of 12 step right there. Acceptance of the issue, whatever the issue is. By the way, you all, I'm just going to say this. I love 12 step programs. Do you know there's a 12 step program out there for everything? An artist friend of mine goes to a 12 step program to help artists keep their creativity flowing. You can go to it for alcohol. You can go to it if you know an alcoholic. You can gambling, sex, all this stuff. I think everybody qualifies for 12 steps. So I'm just going to say that right now, Chris. And I'm sure, yes, actually, one of my clients right now is involved in a 12 step for money program for money. Awesome.
Yeah.
We have to accept it, because otherwise there is no place for growth. If we're resisting, there's no change that's going to happen from that place, which is what we were talking about earlier. Those of you listening, when we make ourselves into a victim and don't take 100% responsibility, nothing changes. Victim consciousness is not a growth mindset. Whereas if you can acknowledge it, then there can be change. Well, something I've heard you talk about, Chris, that I think is super powerful, and I want us to focus on this before we wrap up, and that is I've heard you talk about forgiveness. And I have to say, when I heard you talk about that, I was like, yes, I liked you even better than I already do, because I have a whole chapter on forgiveness in my Get Out of Debt book.
Yeah.
Forgiveness. And it's not just ourselves, it's also God, it's other people, it's the situation. So talk to us about forgiveness and prosperity and why that has been so essential in your journey.
No, so I hired my coach with money I didn't have, right? I just found a way. I just found a way. And so I hired him to double our income, because we literally had, and we were doing, we were a couple $100,000 a year. We needed to double to 5 just to make it, right? Because of the disaster I created. And he taught me how to actually, he said, you're a great goal setter, but you suck as a goal achiever. And so he actually taught me, and I talk about it in my book, like how to do that. But so he was to hold me accountable on that, right? So I'm a CPA, financial advisor. I'm looking for strategy, like I'm looking for those things. And so we had a check-in meeting every Friday on results. In our first meeting, he said, what happened? And I was like, yeah, and I had a bunch of BS and was trying to get his approval, and we talk about approval addiction in my book and all sorts of things not working for me. But he said, I got a homework assignment for you, which I was excited because I'm a kind of a dork. And so I like homework. And he said, you need to forgive your ex-wife. And I was like,
dang.
I'm like, she's horrible. What are you talking about? Like,
Medusa.
I'm like, I'm paying you. Aren't you on my side? Right. And then he said, hey, if you don't forgive her, you're going to be a broke mofo the rest of your life. And he's like, you'll never let your money in. And if you don't forgive her, I fire you and I keep the money. Right. He used that a few times. Like, if you don't do it, and then he would say, based on results, how's your way working? And that would usually get me back to humility, right? Which is where we need to all humble down if we want to change, right? Because our ego is not our amigo. And I said, all right, how? He said, when we're done with this call, I want you to grab a blank pad of paper. I want you to write her name at the top. And I want you to write down everything you appreciate about her. And he said, I want you to do that every day until you don't have to, and you'll know when you no longer need to.
You'll know when you're done.
You'll know when you. I'm got goosebumps all over my body, because it's one of the reasons why God had me write this book, because people suck at forgiveness.
Give people the name of your book, by the way, Chris.
Oh, it's right here. Think and Grow You.
Grow You. Think and Grow You. You all.
It is a handbook for any entrepreneur to get out of their own way and level up their life. But
beautiful. I've got to get a copy.
So we hang up, got the pad of paper, and I'm like, literally, like, and about 30 minutes into staring at a blank piece of paper, my awareness was, holy crap, he's right. The resentment is so ginormous. And, I'm 53. I have better energy at 53 than I did at 33. Not even close. Yeah. Because I don't think it's time management. I think it's energy management. And these energy leaks of, lack of resentment, all this crap, right? So finally, top of the hour, I'm like, okay, dude, you can come up with one thing. And it was, she's a great mom. She's a phenomenal mom. My kids are rock stars. So I did it the next day. Found one more thing. Did it the next day. Maybe she's my greatest teacher ever. Did it the next day, the next day, the next day. I had a pretty good list, Dr. Barnsley, about 10 to 12 items. And then I didn't write it down anymore, but I had the list memorized. So I would be on a run, driving in the car, all these things. And all of a sudden, right, new neurons are firing and old resentful ones are going away. My perception starts changing. And then I start texting her, Merry Christmas, Happy Mother's Day. Thanks for all you do. I quit resenting the alimony and child support payment. And Marlo and I made a commitment that we would never say one negative thing about her ever.
Beautiful.
Again. And then my kids are in Atlanta. They're baseball players. I would come down and stand next to her the whole baseball game and get caught up. And she married a phenomenal dude who I talk about in the book, who I had to resolve that another man was raising my kids and how I got into acceptance of that. And if I wasn't in acceptance of that, how that would have been a shit show. And so I watched the miracle of forgiveness and what happened with my kids, what happened with her, what happened with my life, what happened to us financially. People are looking for the how-tos of the finances, and there's these roots. And so my former firm, I did a tremendous amount of speaking, to different advisor groups. And I'm just like, dude, you got to close with this every single time. And I would literally cover all these points. And I thought I would nail my talk. And I'm literally getting off stage and people are lined up wanting to talk to you. And all of them are like, wait. You're freaking telling me that I have to forgive my ex, my mom, my dad, my this, my that, my this. You're telling me that myself, right? That was a big one too.
God,
and
my idea of great creator. Yeah.
You're telling me
was quote unquote unfair, right?
You're telling me that's why I'm stuck in my business. And I would just tell them the same thing my coach told me. I'm like, based on results, how's it working?
Wow.
And it's freaking powerful. Anyway, you and I could do a whole show on forgiveness, but
we're going to have to do that. You and I are going to have to do that because I tell you, you said earlier, what we focus on grows. Well, here's the other thing I know that I always talk about, and that is where your focus goes, there your energy flows. And so do you want all your energy to flow to resentment? Do you want it to flow to unforgiveness, or do you want it to flow to prospering ideas and relationships and opportunities? Where do you want your energy to go, truthfully? And the word resentment comes from French, ressentir, to feel again. So how many times are you going to pick the scab, people, right? How many times are we going to do that when we're mad at somebody or we're mad at ourselves? Before we let it go and free up that energy for what we truly want.
Yeah. As my coach would say, quit throwing out poop covered boomerangs.
Your coach is my kind of person. I love that, poop covered boomerangs. And I also love what you said. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I loved what you said about our ego is not our amigo. Our ego is not our amigo. And everybody listening, I hope you're thinking about it. I hope there's a little bit of just uncomfortability for you right now, thinking about ways that maybe your ego has been running the show, because the ego is the one that judges you, that judges your idea of your higher power. Well, that shouldn't have happened. Why did that happen? Why did my higher power let that happen? Or judges other people. And when that ego is in charge, there's nothing fun, nothing joyful, and nothing prosperous that's going to come out of it. That's for sure. Well, Chris, you have given us so much. You and I could talk forever. I know we got to wrap, but I just want to say to everybody listening, those of you who are new to the show, to Bold Badass Business, here's the thing. We love to give away things. And Chris has given us his time so kindly today and given us so much to think about. And he also has something he's going to give you. But when you go into the Bold Badass Business freebie vault, guess what? You get access to thousands and thousands of dollars of gifts, all free for you. And here is where you need to go to access that. So those of you listening, put down that dog, or put down that whatever you're doing, you're washing dishes while you listen, whatever you're doing, and put down that telephone. You were going to make a call, and write this down: bit.ly/free from Dr. B, DRB. bit.ly/free from DRB, Dr. B. I made it rhyme just to make it easy. Now, what that is stuff from me and stuff from all the incredible guests and some other people as well, there for you to avail yourselves of. And what, Chris, in a nutshell, are you going to put into the freebie vault for everybody?
It's my 5-day training on really the 4 keys to level up your life. So of all the concepts I talked about in my book, there was a lot there. There were 4 gigantic keys that really caused us to level up financially, and you would be shocked that most of it had nothing to do with money.
Beautiful. Did everybody hear that? Man, I'm going to go get my copy as soon as my team gets that in there, Chris. So you all go to bit.ly/free from Dr. B and go look for Chris's gift and look around. We've got bold, badass business sponsors at the top who have just some incredible offerings in there. And just get what you want, everybody, and share this. Please subscribe to our YouTube. You can go to Dr. Barnsley Brown and subscribe to our YouTube, but also when you go into the vault, you can re-listen to any episode and you'll be able to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for listening, and share this with people you know who hate their job, who hate their life, who hate themselves, and they want to be prosperous, but they want to have a business and not a hobby, which so many business owners have. We want you to be bold, badass business owners, right, Chris? And
amen, sister.
Yep. And that means you're going to go for it. That means you're going to invest in your business. That means you're going to get coaching from experts. That means you're going to look for the people who are where you want to be. And you are going to find the person who feels right to you and work with them, or the people. You know, I counted up the other day and I've had like 16 coaches in the last 5 years. 16. Why? Because we all have those blind spots, and we need people who can say to us the truth, and who have the strategizing, as you pointed out, the strategery, I think you called it.
Strategery.
That was so much fun. Like the badassery, strategery. A new word. We've got a new word.
It's a George W. word.
Oh.
You call it strategery.
Strategery. We've got the strategery to help you do it faster. That's the whole thing, to compress that journey so it doesn't take you such a long time, as it certainly did me to get where I am. That's why I do what I do, because I want you to be able to compress it and not have it take you over a decade, right? To get into 6 figures, multiple 6 figures and more. And you know, Chris, your journey's been long too. How long would you say it took you before you got into the range you wanted to be?
Well, I got there within a few years, but I was pretty stupid with my money, right? So,
but I mean, prior to that.
Oh yeah. It took too long, and then I was stuck at a certain level. And, you know, I could do a whole show on what keeps people stuck at a certain income level too. But
well, we'll have you back for that, because that's really important. And that's that set point, getting that set point. So everyone, you've had so much to think about, and please comment, tell us what your ahas are, and share this with someone you know who's struggling, or someone you know who just wants to be a badass at a greater level than they already are. And even if you don't feel like a badass today, let me just say, on behalf of myself and also Chris, I think you would agree that just by tuning in, obviously, you are a badass. So buck up, Buttercup, and make it happen. This is Dr. Barnsley Brown with the Bold Badass Business Show. We're here every Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. And thank you again, Chris, for being here.
Yeah, thanks, sister. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. All right, make it happen, y'all.